Thank you, Honourable Minister, for the warm and touching welcome remarks. Next on our program, I'll call upon Mr. Sene Ufanga, our Principal Health Planning Officer, to kindly come forward and deliver briefing notes on the report. Thank you, sir.
Tapke afea tua ya taulo tolonga. Tapke taine whaafi whangangi o kātongan. Princess isnai kakala. Tapke ik minister Hamui. Tapke whaifkau. Tukumo ke u whamalumalo atu i he whakatapka kato kua se ono awhaki mei moani. Pe tā ngata i te au whai toa mamau atu. Kaya tā ke u whahako ai whatongia e whiawhin. Whamemori pe taine princess. Tukumai hawhenga maari ke whahoko whatongia i rea whapritania. Ke hui ko tau kainga muri, kau whatamu tau tolu hen. Pe he koe poloka mani o whahoko hangatonu atu ki tōporeanga. Your Highness, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a random event. There are many good reasons why and how this special event was organized to be hosted in the Kingdom of Tonga today. To name a few, it is related to the commitment of Tonga to advocate for the ICPT beyond 2014, as it was stated in the newly set up Parliamentary Committee on Population and Development. UNFPA acknowledged Tonga's continued commitment from the formulation of the Moana Declarations, where Honourable Isaac Eke and Sela Pasi helped share the outcomes, as well as Tonga's strong presence, participation, and support to the 6th Asia-Pacific Population Conference, to the Commissions on Population and Development, as well as UN General Assembly on ICPT in New York. Additionally, Tonga's engagement on youth such as Filitonu and how the Pacific can benefit from Tonga's good practices in engaging youthful resources. To provide a brief summary of this 126 pages report in just 7 minutes, I will be focusing on adolescents and youth population group. The state of the population on the World Population Report 2014 noted that there are 1.8 million young populations aged 10 to 24 years old in the world, representing 28% of the world population. It is estimated that about 9 out of 10 people within the same age group live in less developed countries, including Tonga. These population groups face their own challenges, which mostly related to where they live and the environmental factors that support them. Globally, 73.4 million of the same population group are unemployed. Only 10 to 15% of young men and women have good knowledge about age-specific diseases, such as HIV. Most importantly, there is only 22% of young population group have access to family planning measures, specifically contraceptive services. In the Pacific context, there are recommended future priorities based on the International Conference on Population Survey, such as employment creation, technical and vocational training, drug and alcohol abuse, crime and violence, increasing youth participation in decision-making, education, reducing HIV, teenage pregnancy, strengthening youth program, updating youth policies. And from the same survey of the Pacific, it recommends to improve data collection to inform policy and program development, build capacity of youth divisions in government ministries, ensure accessible to sexual reproductive health and mental health services in school, youth organization, churches, and develop programs to address crime, drugs, and alcohol abuse and violence, especially in urban areas and informal settlement. Your Highness, ladies and gentlemen, the limited resources in the Pacific setting, including Tonga, may not be sufficient to envelop the continued high fertility rate that result in large number of young people needing education and job opportunities. When resources do not match this demand, undesirable consequences such as crime, social unrest take place. It is also important to note that high adolescence, as known as teenage fertility, and instance of sexually transmitted infections may also be linked to weak education and unemployment. As expected, motherhood at a very young age entails a risk of maternal mortality that far exceeds the average, and the children of young mothers tend to have higher level of mortality and morbidity. That all started from psychologically and socially immature adolescents to withstand associated health risk. This is simply demanding a more comprehensive parental support at home, at our community, and our country at large. Here in Tonga, the demographic transitions are relatively slow due to little improvement in total fertility over the past decades from 4 to 3.9, which eventually influenced by low contraceptive prevalence rate of 28%. However, our latest demographics health survey shows that the population growth in the last 4 years is very low due to high outmigration of working age population to our neighboring countries. While the maternal and child health mortality rate of Tonga is among the lowest in the Pacific community, we still believe in the concept of one maternal and one infant death is too many. There are still rooms for improvement. The government and its development partners and non-government organizations have developed strong policy framework that would guide a more comprehensive population development approaches, such as Family Protection Bill 2013, National Reproductive Health Policy and Strategy 2013-2017, Education Policy Framework 2004-2019, National Integrated Sexual and Reproductive Health Strategic Plan 2014-2018, to name a few. The Ministry of Finance and National Planning is now leading the review of Tonga's Strategic Development Framework for Tonga. Similarly, the Ministry of Health is designing a National Strategic Development Plan for 2015-2020. This milestone will fuel this process with scientific evidence that should bridge the gaps between credible evidence and research with policy development. In conclusion, despite some good progress that we have achieved so far, we cannot afford to congratulate ourselves and leave them to dismantle by few good challenges and threats that were outlined earlier. In this situation of limited resources, we generally believe that health is our wealth. This report reminds us that youth and adolescence is our greatest asset despite the distraction of climate change, non-communicable disease, and Ebola virus. It makes us believe that it is probably amongst the best investment that any country should pursue. It is power because they represent significant percentage of our population. The reality, these challenges always goes beyond the boundary of our limited resources. Let me finish off by quoting a small phrase from the famous song, The Power of the Tree. I quote, "There's so much strength in all of us. Your mind will take you far. The rest is in your heart. You will find your fate is on all your creation. And every boy and girls, as they came into this world, bring the gift of hope and inspiration, faith in things unseen, courage to embrace your fears, no matter where you are, to reach your own star. To our whaekiatu.
Thank you, Sione, for the interesting and informative findings, summary of the reports. Next on our program, the Seattle Thai Theological Choir will provide a entertainment item. Thank you.